Hey, I'm Romi.
And I'm Nicole. Welcome to the Her Pursuit Pod, where we share our journey of building our business, The Daily Drip, a dynamic media platform that provides content and community for more than 4,000 South Florida female CEOs, founders, business owners, executives, and professionals.
Whether it's through our newsletter, events, or this podcast, our hope is to inspire your next big move and arm you with the tools you need to crush it. So tune in on your drive to work, wind down with us after a long day as we share our journey and the journeys of other remarkable business leaders on Her Pursuit.
Hi guys, welcome back to a special episode of Her Pursuit. I'm Nicole, co-founder of The Daily Drip, and I'm here with Romi, my partner in crime, and we wanted to have like a very real moment with you guys, just like a transparent episode where we can kind of give you an update on The Daily Drip, our business, which is what this podcast is dedicated to, really trying to pull back the curtain and let you know what it's been like for us to build our business in hopes that it might help you build yours. And so we had a very big surprise this year. So this episode is really dedicated to all the women entrepreneurs out there, all the female builders, because maybe you might find yourself in the same situation as me, which is, surprise, I'm pregnant. Over the holidays, my family and I got a really special surprise, an unexpected surprise. And, the last couple months have been a pressure cooker. They've been exciting and they've been happy, but they've been a pressure cooker. And so we thought it might be a great time to have an episode and a talk with you guys about what it really looks like for us. To be women, to be mothers, caregivers, daughters, wives, trying to build a business, and then life happens. It's hard enough, and then life happens, right? So I thought I would just share with you guys that when I found out, I'll never forget the phone call to Romi. I called her. I said, I need to talk to you. It's important. And right away.
And I don't like any conversation that starts like that because I assume only bad things. Like I literally thought I was going to throw up.
And if I'm being honest, to me, it was a bad thing. Because we had so much lined up for you guys this year. Like 2025 is a rager. We have so many new initiatives, launches, announcements. And at that moment, all I could think of was, how am I going to do this? How are we going to do this now? And so right away I had to tell her, and I said, I got to tell you something. And I was like crying, like it was like I had bad news, right? Even though it was good news, but it was bad news to me. I said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm pregnant and I'm really sorry. And that was what our conversation
and
kicked off
as. Could not have been more excited for the record.
It's the truth, Elizabeth.
Yes.
That was literally, I was borderline tears, and I said, oh, yeah, she hadn't heard this story. Neither of you guys. So we're sharing it with you. I literally said, I'm pregnant and I'm so sorry. I don't know how we're going to do this. And then she said,
I said, we're going to do this like we do everything. We're going to figure it out. And this is the best possible surprise, to be honest. I'm a kick-ass aunt, so I'm thrilled. I'm ecstatic about it. But I think what was really key is that, you were nervous to talk about it because everything we have going on. But the reality is this is just an example of life happening as you're trying to build and do, and having people that you can lean into and you can talk to and you can say, okay, let's go into problem solving mode, which I think any business owner understands that's the job.
Oh my God, that's essentially what you do. You're just a problem solver all day. But yeah, it really was. It was a great relief to tell you, because you could help me with the overwhelm I felt. I felt an intense sense of overwhelm where I didn't even know how to begin problem solving. Like I didn't even know what to tackle first. I was just in shock, and knowing what we had coming up. And I'd like to think of myself as a pretty good problem solver. Like I'm pretty good at rolling with the punches, but it's different when it's you. Like when someone else on my team or someone around me is having a problem, I could do that all day and all night. But when I have something going on, my mind is so frozen that I couldn't even see through the fog and think of what do we do first?
And I think it's a process. I think it was like, you have that initial moment where it just kind of like feels like a punch in the gut and you're like, oh my God. But then I think, at least for me, what I've loved to see is the calm that has come over you. Like, as you were able to sort of, I think telling me, I appreciate that you were like so freaked out about it. I could not have been more excited. I am like beyond ecstatic, but to know, like, first of all, we're in this together. Like we face everything. But beyond that, now I see the joy you have for this coming up. And it's just a matter of putting things in place so that everything continues. And I think also giving ourselves, like as women and especially as business owners, like cut yourself a little slack. Like, okay, so like I always say to you, we're not saving lives. No one's going to die on the table if an article doesn't drop, if the newsletter doesn't go out. And I think I say that as a joke, but also because I think we all need to hear that, to know that, with the exception of those of you in medicine, okay? You guys are different, but I think it's important to kind of give yourself a little bit of room to say, like, we're people first. We're women first. These are things we're going to have to deal with. And so who can you turn to A, talk it through with, and then start to put the plan in place?
And I would have to say, in addition to talking with you, I had to really get real with my husband. I had to say out loud to him, like, I'm freaked out. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And, our family and my husband really was so, first of all, excited, but also recognized that pressure cooker, that was real, what I was feeling. And everybody kind of stepped up in a variety of ways to say, okay, here's what I can do. Here's what we can do. Here's what we will do. My parents, my in-laws, here's how we can help with the kids. My husband, here's what we can change schedule-wise, or here are our options. And so as much as I had to talk to Romi from the business perspective, I had to also get real with my family about what the capacity limitations might be, what the priorities are, and how are we going to make it all work? How are we going to make all this work?
And I think for those of us who I think like we share this sort of innate quality of like, we can handle anything. We can do all of it. We'll just do it. Taking the minute to say like, I cannot actually do all of this by myself. Like it's physically impossible. It's emotionally impossible. And saying like, I need to ask for help, and that's okay. And knowing that you have that support in place, like that you can lean on those resources. And I think you got to kind of, I don't know, I think for anyone who's doing this, like take a look around and just kind of make sure you have people.
Yeah.
Like whether it's family, whether it's business associates, friends, whatever, but things are going to come up and you have to be willing to ask.
You have to admit you can't do anything. You have to be willing to ask. And part of that conversation was what gets cut.
Right.
Business is about tough decisions, and you've got to make them fast. And so probably within 24 hours, Romi and I nixed altogether or completely moved to 2026 whole initiatives. Things that we very much had lined up got the axe, or they got moved, and we slept doing it.
Yeah, and have people like in realness, like you were like, well, what about this? And I finally was like, I think you just answered this question. We're not doing this. Like This is a really important time in your life for you and your family, and these initiatives can wait.
Yeah,
they can wait. You deserve this. Your son deserves this. Frank deserves this. So I think that, as much as we're all ambitious and striving to do all of these things, I think it's really important to have people in your life that are going to kind of hold up the mirror and be like, I get it. And I know that you want this too, but there's time for that. You will not get to give birth again to that child. You will not get to come home and have that time with your family. So I think that it's hard when you're an overachiever. It's hard when you care as much as we do about what we're building to have to put the brakes on a little bit or slow it down. But I think it's so important to kind of recognize the other things that sometimes that's just going to take a little bit. Like we're going to not do those initiatives. We're not going to It's not that urgent, but being there for your family is.
Right. And I think that's really that's the skill set and the muscle to build in this, because Romy went through something very similar not too long ago, last year, when her mother-in-law was sick in the hospital, dying, and then eventually passed away. And then there was the whole estate. And I mean, it feels like she's still dealing with it.
We are.
And there have been, she had to go to Toronto for a month. And when that happened, we figured out exactly what needed to be done to make that possible so that she could be there for her husband and her family. And, when I think about all the people in the Daily Drip, all the incredible women, the thought leaders, the members, the audience, the community, and they all have stories. Whose mother got sick and now they're caring for them, whose child got diagnosed with something and now that's a priority. And it's this idea that as women and business builders, womanhood still calls. Like, as humans, humanity still calls. Like, all of these parts of life still happen. And so it's about building the muscle to be flexible, to be able to adapt and to pivot. And what I would say, next to being ruthless about making quick decisions and difficult decisions, is making sure that you're building a business that is capable of pivoting. And the only way to be capable of pivoting is to have systems and processes and people overseeing the systems and processes and schedules. Because if we didn't have any of those things in place, we wouldn't have been able to pivot as fast as we did. Those decisions would have been 10 times harder and taken 10 times longer.
And the reality is, with pregnancy, the upside is you get a runway, right? Like,
Right.
You found out and it's okay. We have 8 months to figure this out. Whereas my mother-in-law getting sick, or the other things that we've discussed, like, those things can just happen. You wake up one day and that's happening. And the question is, do you have the resources? Do you have the systems and processes, in addition to the people, to be able to keep things going, or, navigate your way through that? And we had a thought leader who had to fly out on a moment's notice to care for her father. And what I thought was so incredible is that she had another person in her life who had her own community that she could call on to handle an event that was happening that very day. And so it just goes to show that, like, she had that in place, even though she may not have even thought about it that way. So having the people, the systems and processes, because not everyone's going to get an 8-month runway,
Right.
to plan for it.
Sometimes it happens without any notice. And I think you're so right. You hear about the village when it comes to raising your kids. You need the village when it comes to building a business, in the same way. And I think it's just what this has taught me. And I hope in sharing this and being super transparent with you guys, it will teach you, is that when we talk about building a business, it's often in a vacuum. You go to a workshop, you watch a video, you hear some guru, and they're talking to you about concepts and tactics and strategies, and it's hard. But you have to do it also when things are hard, also when life is happening, also when it's bedtime, also when you're getting a divorce, also when someone's dying, also when you find out you're pregnant. You're still building this business. And sometimes that webinar, and all those great concepts and things that you learned and things you're trying to implement, it's going to be 10 times harder to implement them because all this other shit is going on. And you're just saying, oh my God, how do I just survive till tomorrow? And I say all this to say, that's just part of the ride. It's just what you signed up for. And it's beautiful when you have the right community around you, the right people around you, when you can look back on what you've built and say, oh my God, this thing is so sturdy, it could even handle this. And so I say all this to say, and Romy and I bring this special episode to you to say, you can do it, keep going, one step at a time, and make sure that you are surrounding yourself by the right people and you are building a solid foundation that can weather any curveball, whatever life throws at you. And so all this to say we still have a ton in store for 2025. We didn't nix everything. I mean, let's be real.
I mean, we're not crazy.
We got a lot happening and a lot of good things. And we even got some good things on deck for 2026. So there you go. But yeah, lots of exciting things happening. A really great start to the year for us. And we look forward to sharing all of it with you. So thanks for joining us on another episode of Her Pursuit.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Her Pursuit.
You can listen to new episodes every other Wednesday on Spotify or watch us on YouTube. Stay in the loop on all our virtual and in-person events, read our latest articles, and catch new episodes by subscribing to our free weekly newsletter.
Check out the episode notes for more details, and we'll see you here on our next episode of Her Pursuit.